Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I guess we were too quick to the punch with that KFC chicken ad with the cult and the golden egg because lots and lots of you said, hey, Casey, you need to check out the KFC golden chicken ad. I'm like, we already did that a couple days ago. And it's actually what we're now, today's show is going to actually be on, this whole golden egg matrix. And the whole KFC chicken ad is what kind of spawned it. So if you missed that show, please go back. Oftentimes when these things break, or typically one of the first ones on it, not always, but most of the time you can just go back a couple shows and you'll see that we already covered a lot of this stuff. Now, in that show where we covered the KFC chicken ad, we also pulled back up last year's KFC chicken ad, the first one. And we showed how that was very closely related to Michael Jackson and Thriller and Frequencies and the Electric Kingdom and all of that stuff. Now, later in today's show, we're going to be doubling down on the golden egg from that KFC chicken ad. We're going to be doing a deep dive into the Bible, as well as an Illuminati playing card that very few of you have looked at so far. And it all seems to be happening right now. Now, the card is called A Chicken in Every Pot. And one of you was the one that were the ones that told me about that card and thought that it might be related to everything that's happening right now with this whole chicken matrix, because everything's about the chicken and the egg right now, isn't it? In vitro fertilization, we've got bird flu, egg shortages, Easter, of course, and the KFC commercials, and even the astronaut rescue was related to this whole chicken and egg matrix. And so the person that sent me the Illuminati playing card, you were right over the target, absolutely is connected. I'm going to show that to you later in the show. Now, what am I talking about the astronaut rescue and all this? Well, check this out. On March 18th, NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, along with Nick Hague and Alexander whatever, returned to Earth after an unexpected 9-month stay aboard the International Space Station and were placed in a nest. You can't make this up. They were placed in a nest. Here are the images. So, dragon eggs and nests confirmed, right? Because in the beginning, it sounded kind of silly. Oh, Casey, what are you talking about? SpaceX doesn't look like an egg. Well, now we know. Eggs sit in nests. Confirmed. Now, what else is going on? Well, of course, we've got this whole Trump White House Easter egg hunt. And this is huge. And there are the golden eggs. So golden eggs confirmed. Now, of course, this is a meme making fun of Trump, but understand that all these people are on the same side. Okay. So the golden egg meme is confirmed. Now, how did we know this before all this happened? Well, again, we follow what the Holy Spirit tells us to look at. And right now, he's telling us to look at Trump and what he is birthing in. Remember, we were talking about Trump laying eggs in the Money Snake music video. Trump literally laid an egg and he was a reptile. So we don't make all this stuff up. It's actually really happening. Now let's get into some of these headlines. Top of the news today. Good morning, everybody. There's Rebecca, anonymous cosmonaut, established presence. Yes, Russian nested eggs, says established presence. We've been talking about the nested reality for a very long time. And now you can see that it has emerged as a central theme, hasn't it? We were talking about the nested eggs. Wow. Even, have you guys heard this? I'm a little bit all over the place today, but Terrence Howard talking about nested elements. Now, of course, this guy is a straight up shill, but they want us to believe that these people are smart. So they give them information to talk about, and then they hope that you follow these people into oblivion. Literally, Terrence Howard, we're supposed to believe that this guy is so smart that he figured out the very nature of our reality and how elements are put together. And we're supposed to believe that he drew this chart showing the different shells of how our atomic structure is put together and all the elements. Now, we had already discovered this in a video probably about 8 years ago. And I told you, I said, every element on the periodic chart, many of you will remember the video, the only difference between these elements is an extra shell around it. Remember we had that discussion? And I showed you a graphic showing how from the gases all the way up to the solids, at each level, another shell and another electron or a proton will simply be added to it. And so it starts with this core, the simplest in the gases, which is the most simplest elements. And then it goes and builds and builds and builds until you get to the solids, which of course have many shells and many protons and neutrons. So now all of a sudden they're pretending like they figured this out. Now, I wasn't the one that figured it out, but we were talking about it, weren't we? The nested reality. And this is where we get into a little bit of confusion for some people, because until you understand that this is essentially how God constructed our universe, then all this will be very confusing to you. Let me double down on this a bit, because I need to spend a little bit of time on this for those that are not understanding how the nested reality works. God created basic shapes and forms that when you extrapolate them out, or if you look at the fractal of it, it actually is all the same thing. Now, we narrowed this all down to one object, a tree. I remember we had this discussion. I said, everything is a tree. You are a tree. God created the trees in the garden. Most things in our reality are branches off of a main trunk. The main trunk, of course, is God, the narrow gate, the trunk of the tree. Trunks of trees are twisted. Even though when you cut a cross section, the rings look static, they're actually spinning around in a spiral up toward the top of the crown of the tree. Now, we found biblical precedent for all this. Someone in the Bible said they saw men walking and they looked like trees. We also noticed that a human being, all of the parts of our body are like a tree. We have a trunk. We have limbs. We have a crown. Our fingerprints look like tree rings. So this is the nested reality. It's things within things. It's meanings within meanings, all coming from a central thing that looks like everything else. And if you think about it, even timelines, blood lines, they're all fractal realities, things building upon other things, correct? So when we do some of these decodes, some people get a little bit confused because they're like, Casey, does it mean that or does it mean this? Before you said it meant that, but now you're saying it means this. Prime example, the astronaut in the tower in iPad Code 2, right? In the beginning, it was Wally Funk with the booster shoe, but it's also Sonny Williams, isn't it? It's both. It's things within things, and iPad Go 2 is actually constructed and designed to have meanings within meanings, meanings built within meanings and on top of meanings. So it's all of them are correct. All the meanings are correct. So that's a little bit on the nested reality. And here we are, Easter 2025. That's their pagan name that they give it. And now it's all about the eggs and nests. Who could have ever known? Well, we knew. But let's keep going here, because check this out. Top of the news, 23andMe has gone bankrupt. Now, this broke like last night. I think I saw this last night. And so I definitely need to include it in today's show. DNA testing company 23andMe has filed for bankruptcy. What does this mean for your data? This is insane. They don't know what this means for your data. Let's read this. The company has 15. It says, let's start from the beginning. Genetic testing company 23andMe announced on Sunday that it's filed for bankruptcy due to low demand for its ancestry kits. And after a 2023 data breach damaged its reputation, company, which has over 15 million customers worldwide, said it voluntarily filed for Chapter 11. So what's happening here is they've already got all their data and information. They've got what they needed to do this, right? The direct-to-consumer company has customers submit a saliva sample for their DNA to be analyzed, either for ancestry purposes, family traits, or for potential health risks. Part of the reason the company's decline in earnings is due to waning interest in its testing kits. I think people are waking up to this, you guys. And then, of course, they talk about the hacker event that happened in 2023, 14,000 user accounts, and they were targeting Jewish and Chinese users, which alarmed customers and heightened concern about the privacy of their data. Let's see here. Oh, and then it says here, company also announced Sunday that its co-founder, CEO Ann Wojcicki, which used to be the CEO of YouTube, is resigning from her role immediately after a failed attempt to take the company private. So, obviously, when do we ever hear of multi-billion-dollar companies failing? They don't. So there's a reason why this is happening. It's because they've already got what they needed. It says here, there are no changes to the way the company stores, manages, or protects customer data. Mark Jensen, and the member of the special committee of the board of directors, said, we are committed to continuing to safeguard customer data, being transparent about the management of user data going forward. The data privacy will be an important consideration in any potential transaction. Why a customer's 23andMe data isn't protected under HIPAA laws. Wow. So the HIPAA, of course, is the Patient Privacy Act, but it only protects the privacy between you and me, not between the people that hold the information and each other. It says here, HIPAA only protects the type of information when it's provided to an entity like a hospital system, physician health plans, or billing companies that conduct business with them. 23andMe is not subject to HIPAA regulations because it's a direct-to-consumer company outside of the healthcare realm. Wow. The person is treated as a consumer rather than a patient. That means that as long as their terms of service don't specifically prohibit it, these companies can conduct research on your genetic data, sell it, or share it with third parties. What could happen to the data if the company is sold? A person's genetic information could be used to their detriment. For example, Mason Marks, a Mason, of course, right? A visiting professor at Harvard Law School told Consumer Reports that a worst case scenario could be an employer or insurance company might find out or find you have a predisposition to develop early onset Alzheimer's, cancer, mental illness, and discriminate against you based on that. So here's where we are in 2025, you guys. Literal insanity. Now, whenever I think things couldn't get any more weird, you guys surprise me. Again, most of the things we cover on this channel come from you. What am I talking about? Well, in the 1920s, Herbert Hoover ran a prosperity campaign. Much like Trump did in 2024. And of course, right now, Trump's prosperity campaign is manifesting in his presidency in some of the things he's saying and doing, talking about a golden age of prosperity, right? Now, Hoover was incorrectly quoted as using a particular campaign slogan in the 1920s, a chicken in every pot. Now, apparently he never said that, according to historical records, but it was attached to him because the Republicans were using that slogan earlier that year before he was elected, a chicken in every pot. Now, I wouldn't be talking about prosperity and chickens in every pot if it wasn't for this Illuminati card. A chicken in every pot. New World Order. How can it be that this card is manifesting right now as we speak, attached to the prosperity campaigns of both Herbert Hoover and JFK, who repeated the very same thing, the chicken in every pot prosperity campaign? This is crazy, you guys. This is the year where they quote unquote released the rest of the JFK files. This has to be connected to this Illuminati playing card, doesn't it? Now we're going to read about a chicken in every pot just to confirm this for you, but I'm giving you a summary so you can understand what's going on here. Trump's obviously channeling this, isn't he? A golden age. Let's read the history of the chicken in every pot, and then we'll take a look at the Illuminati playing card. And then after that, we're going to get into some Bible talk. We're going to talk about half bird and half reptile animals mentioned in the Bible called the cockatrice, and all the other egg mentions. Let's read this. Chicken in every pot was a Republican campaign slogan of the late 1920s. The slogan is often incorrectly attributed to Herbert Hoover. It became a means for Democrats to attack Republicans as out of touch with economic reality. The desire for there to be a chicken in every pot dates back at least to 16th century France. That's when Henry IV supposedly wished that every peasant in his kingdom, no matter how poor, could have a chicken in every pot on Sunday. Centuries later, the phrase resurfaced in the U.S. In 1928, a group of Republican businessmen created an ad touting the supposed gains the Republican Party had made for working Americans. The ad ran in the New York World, and the headline read, "A chicken in every pot." The Republican Party isn't a poor party, the ad began. It went on to say the Republican efficiency has filled the working man's dinner pail and his gasoline tank besides. Republican prosperity has reduced hours and increased earnings capacity, silenced discontent, put the proverbial chicken in every pot and a car in every backyard to boot. Hoover easily beat Smith, who was the Democratic candidate, and it's worth noting that Hoover never actually promised Americans a chicken in every pot, but Hoover did run on the prosperity platform, promising ordinary Americans a better life. In 1932, Hoover was running for re-election, and America was in the throes of the Great Depression. Wow. Is this the shape of things to come? The promise of prosperity, but instead, a depression. Many Americans blame the president for the economic downturn, and the language of the time reflects it. Slums were known as Hoovervilles, and empty, turned-out pockets were known as Hoover flags. Wow, the promise of a car in every backyard and a chicken in every pot seemed laughable to many, but which helps explain the record turnout to vote Hoover in. Decades later, when John F. Kennedy was running for president, he dredged up the chicken in every pot slogan all over again. Kennedy attributed the quote to Hoover, expanding the original slogan to include twice as many chickens as before. It is my understanding that the last candidate for presidency to visit this community in a presidential year was Herbert Hoover in 1928. President Hoover initiated on the occasion of his visit the slogan, "Two chickens for every pot." And it is no accident that no presidential candidate has ever dared come back to this community since, is what Kennedy said. Now I'll put a link to this and everything else, but let's take a look at this Illuminati playing card, and let's break this down because this thing is loaded. So now that we have the history of what a chicken in every pot means, and we see how it connects to what's happening in our reality right now with things that Trump is saying and doing, and the whole chicken and egg connection. Now the plot thickens about Trump's golden eggs and chickens that we've covered over the past 2 shows. And this will help us decode this Illuminati playing card. Let me check in with you guys and I'll show you what I found on the card. Holy smokes. I'm never surprised, you guys. It's like, wow. Good morning. Chickens and egg reality. All right, let's jump right in. First thing that I noticed was this American Eagle patriotic clock. Let's zoom in on it. This has to represent time travel. Trump specifically. Trump is the eagle. You see the red, white, and blue stripes on here. This is patriotism and time. What you're looking at here is this glass dome over the clock. The Golden Dome. Before it was ever named by Trump. Remember, these cards came out in the 1990s. And Trump is the eagle guarding the Golden Dome with time inside. The time traveler, Biff, Back to the Future, 88 miles an hour. Now, I looked up these clocks, and they're actually called torsion pendulum clocks. And the reason why they're encased in glass is so that air currents cannot affect the delicate mechanisms inside. Now, this woman is standing next to what appears to be her husband, and he has a watch, a wristwatch that confirms the time aspect to this, and he's holding a remote control. Now, both of these items, in addition to time and all this, seem to represent abundance, right? Because it's a chicken in every pot. Abundance based on the history we read. But this next thing that I noticed was much more subtle. Windows are portals. And if you look carefully, what you see here are 6, 6, and 6 panes of glass. Literally in plain sight. 6, 6, and 6. Mind blown. So this confirms this whole clock encased in glass. Because it's the glass. The glass is the portal. Almost seems like they're birthing something in, doesn't it? Now think about this. Pots are vessels, aren't they? It's described in the Bible. Clay pots are vessels and pretty much signify the human body. We are clay vessels. So if you put a reptilian feathered serpent inside of a clay pot, you're essentially combining 2 seeds together. And that's what I think they're getting at here. Now let's go to the bottom and read the caption. World trade is thriving. Everybody is rich and happy. Increase the power of all banks and all coastal places by 2. Decrease the power of violent groups by 1. This card replaces any blue New World Order card in play. So, of course, the violent groups have been decreased, with Trump going after the terrorists now, the cartels, right? Promising peace and security. People are feeling safe. The banks are more powerful than ever. Coastal places, I don't know what that might mean, but this has to represent the golden age. You have a golden clock ruled by the Time Lord himself. Wow. Insane. Now, what else? Well, definitely feeling a bit of a mark of the beast connection here, too, with the 666 windows connected to the eggs and chickens. So maybe the mark is the combining of the two seeds, the feathered serpent into humans on some level. So, what else? Well, once again, it was you guys who blew my mind yesterday. I was reading through the comments, and you had discovered that eggs are in the Bible. And that not only are eggs mentioned in the Bible, but a mythical creature called the cockatrice, which is a feathered serpent, literally. It's half dragon, serpent, and half chicken. So I decided to do a deep dive yesterday on all of this. A cockatrice is made when a serpent seed fertilizes a chicken egg. And the word cockatrice appears in the Bible 5 times. Let's read each of these instances. This is the cockatrice. We're going to start in Isaiah. And the suckling child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. This sounds like something is being spawned or birthed out of the serpent that is part serpent and part chicken. His fruit, which is, of course, the children of it. Now, this one says, this is Isaiah 59:5, they hatch cockatrice eggs and weave the spider's web. He that eateth of the eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh into a viper. Now, this one's interesting because it talks about, let's just read it. None calleth for justice, nor any pleadeth for truth. They trust in vanity and speak lies. They conceive mischief and bring forth iniquity. They hatch cockatrice eggs and weave the spider's web. He that eateth of their eggs dieth, and that which is crushed breaketh out into a viper. Their webs shall not become garments, neither shall they cover themselves with their works. Their works are works of iniquity, and the act of violence is in their hands. This is chilling because this is happening now. Nobody's calling for justice. Nobody's pleading for the truth. Trusting in vanity and lies. And all this is compared to the hatching of cockatrice eggs, which appears to be described as vanity, and weaving spiders' webs. Those who eat the eggs die. And this all has to mean hybridization, the vanity of hybridization, and those who take part in it. Those who eat the eggs will die. Eggs being the offspring, and all those involved in this process. Interesting, 23andMe just filed bankruptcy with all these people's information. And that has absolutely nothing to do with Trump wanting to do in vitro fertilization. Two are completely disconnected. See, they have to detach certain things to move on to the next phase of others. Now let's keep going, because they mentioned cockatrice in Jeremiah. It's actually used as a punishment. It says, for behold, I will send serpents, cockatrices among you, which will not be charmed, and they shall bite you, saith the Lord. It's a punishment or a judgment. Now, I also wanted to figure out if the word egg was used in the Bible, and it absolutely is. Here are all the instances of the word egg. It appears 7 times in the Bible. Let's take a look at some of these. Now, this first one says, if a bird's nest happens to be before you along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. So these were rules for the Israelites not to take eggs where a mother was present or whatever. You're not supposed to separate a bird from its eggs. And then here in Job, eggs are described as, the egg white is described as not having any taste. And he compares the egg whites to loathsome food, flavorless food. Or she leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust. This is a reference to an ostrich in context, also in Job. Now, Isaiah describes eggs as riches being gathered together. My hand has found like a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathers eggs that are left, I have gathered all the earth, and there was no one who moved his wing nor opened his mouth with even a peep. There the arrow snake shall make her nest and lay eggs and hatch and gather them under her shadow. This is also in Isaiah. There also shall the hawks be gathered, every one with her mate. So here we have a flying creature and a snake, another feathered serpent reference in Isaiah. Here's another one, Isaiah 59. They hatch viper's eggs and weave the spider's web. He who eats of their eggs dies, and from that which is crushed a viper breaks out. And finally, in Luke, the egg is described as a gift from the Father versus a bad gift, which would be a scorpion. Talking about Father's blessings, and that when we ask for something, he's not going to give us something bad. So, in summary, eggs in the Bible represent valuable gifts. They represent offspring. They also represent hybridization in some cases, and a warning not to consume them. So I'll stay on this egg thing because I know this isn't over yet. There's probably going to be much, much more. Let's hop over into some of these headlines before we end the show today. Let me hop in the chat. Now, if you haven't heard by now, Trump's Social Security chief literally threatened to turn off Social Security if they continued blocking Musk from accessing it to try to make it more efficient. You know, this is insane. Like, you can't say this. Now, of course, this guy's backed away from these comments, but he said it. Okay? They don't get their way. They just turn off Social Security. It just goes to show you that these people really don't care about us. They don't care. Imagine, some people are scared out of their minds. Some people only depend on Social Security alone to survive. And they've got government officials basically threatening to turn it off. Now, I'm 100% for getting rid of government inefficiency, to finding, any kind of fraud. But until we start seeing mass arrests, and I'm not talking about, the people who, yes, they should go after the people that got checks that weren't supposed to. But I'm talking about the fraud that's actually in Social Security, where they're borrowing against our money and stealing our money at the highest levels of the government. We all know it's going on. When are those people going to go to jail? Judges, attorneys, lawyers, government officials. Until this starts to happen, until the focus shifts to actual teeth of punishing the people who stole this money, then I'm not going to believe any of this. I think it's a play. It's a play on our money that we put into the system. Now, let's hop over to the Vances advancing their agenda. Usha Vance actually is going to go to Greenland. So they're doubling down on this Greenland thing. Let's listen to this, see if there's any commentary here. We got to turn the music off. Now it's crazy. They copyright this music now.
National security and even international security. I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
We're going to get it. It's all creepy. I mean, this is insane. You can't just start taking over countries. This is right out of what happened when we showed up to America. It's like, kick everybody off the land. So this is Greenland, and Usha Vance is going to head over there. And I don't know what she's going to do, but apparently she thinks she can do something. Alongside U.S. officials, President Trump continues to express his desire for America to acquire the semi-autonomous Danish territory. High-profile trip. Vance, wife of Vice President J.D. Vance, will travel with her son and a U.S. delegation to visit historical sites, learn about Greenlandic heritage, and attend the Avanada, Greenland's national dog sled race. Now, understand they just elected a guy who actually wants to allow Trump to do this. Think of the timing. They all just magically have an election. Because remember, if you look back, you can go right here on YouTube and see what Greenland had to say about Trump wanting to buy them. That people were unanimously opposed to it. The leadership in Greenland was opposed to it. And all of a sudden, there's a new guy in town that gets elected, and he's like, oh, I'm open to negotiations. Now we got Usha Vance, so this is probably going to happen. It's going to be crazy. What are we going to have, a 51st state? Wow. So that's what's going on in the world, you guys. Now, what else is going on? Trump is now requesting access to people's social media accounts, people that are green card applicants. And he says, hey, if you got something in your social media that I don't like, your green card application is going to be rejected. So, wow. Now think of the implications of this. You might say, oh, why does it matter, Casey? They're not citizens yet. Well, think about when they become citizens. Their social media privacy has already been essentially revoked and being eyed by the government. Right? So does it matter that they're not citizens yet? No, that doesn't matter. This is what they want to do. They want to make sure that your social media is in line with American values. And eventually that's going to be all of us, because if they can do it to a person that's not a citizen yet, it'll be different if it was someone that wasn't applying for citizenship. You know, someone's here illegally, then you could say they could look at their social media accounts for national security, right? But not someone who's actually going to be an American citizen, or the chances are that they will. That's essentially like looking at the social media profile of an American citizen. It's almost the same thing. So this is our world now. This is starting to sound like a social credit score, isn't it? It's starting to sound like that. Now, this woman died of a brain tumor. Former Utah Rep Mia Love, the first Black Republican woman elected to the U.S. House, has died. Had a brain tumor. She's of Haitian descent. And this is out of Salt Lake City, Utah. So crazy, you guys. Now, I wanted to end the show with this clip from Person of Interest. And this is the truth about the drug trade in America.
He's CIA.
What? The CIA is trafficking drugs.
CIA is trafficking drugs, he asked. Now, this guy's a good cop trying to go after this drug ring, and he finds out the CIA is the one doing it.
Government couldn't win the war on drugs, so they're using it to fund the war on terror.
Bingo. Now, This is a tough series to get through. I'm only on season 1, and it's like watching paint dry. It's very difficult. I'm hoping it gets better. A lot of people wanted me to look at Person of Interest, but it's just like, bro, it's too boring. There are some nuggets like the one I just showed you, but for the most part, it's just the same story over and over again. They pick a target, someone to go save their life because the machine said that that person was going to die or is going to kill someone else. And it's round and round and round and round. So I may fast forward to season 3. Everyone keeps telling me, go to season 3. That's where it really busts wide open. So I may do that. Who knows? We got a lot of new series coming up, though, that need to get decoded. The Last of Us. There's a Superman film coming out. I'll be decoding. The Accountant 2. I'll be decoding. What else do I have here in my Andor? The Star Wars. I might be decoding that. Handmaid's Tale's coming up. So a lot of stuff to decode in the next couple months. And I'm back in the chat. Good morning. Marathon today, right? Always a marathon. Always a marathon. Oh, boy. Good morning. Nested reality. This is shaping up to be one of the biggest discoveries on this channel, isn't it? Talking about it for so long, and now we're starting to see all of it manifest. Oh, yeah, Electric State. I'll probably pass on that one. It got horrific reviews. Now, we did decode the trailer, and I showed you in plain sight how the trailer predicted the Trump fake assassination attempt. How? They show a giant cat getting shot through the ear. I actually literally showed it to you. And then behind him is the flag of Iwo Jima, which of course was the scene at the assassination. The problem is that the trailer came out before the shooting attempt. How did the trailer know? Because they already know what the script is. And they leaked the script. And then people like us pick up on it, but then we're called. But if people actually sat and looked at what they were looking at, they would see the truth hiding in plain sight. But we keep believing the lie, don't we? Oh, thanks, Joy. I appreciate you too. Right. Yeah, now I want to be clear here. The cockatrice in the Bible is not exactly the cockatrice of mythology. Okay, I'm not trying to compare the two, although we did see a lot of chicken and reptile connections in the Bible as well. It's like a different word. Now let me read this here because it actually talks about this. Here, let's go down here. Talks about the biblical references. Ooh, look at this. The worm Ouroboros. I'm in the cockatrice article, Wikipedia article. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go down to the biblical references. My goodness. Cockatrice. Where'd it go? Gosh, it was in Romeo and Juliet too. Shakespeare. Here we go. The first use of the word in English was in John Wycliffe's 1382 translation of the Bible to translate different Hebrew words. This usage was followed by the King James Version, the word being used several times. The Revised Version, following the tradition established by Jerome's Vulgate Basilicus, renders the word as basilisk. So there's your Catholic Church reference, right? The basilisk. And the NIV version translates it as viper. In Proverbs 23:32, the similar Hebrew zeph is rendered adder, which is, of course, is a snake, both in the Authorized Version and the Revised Version. So there's that. These are the cultural references. And then down here in this high fantasy novel called The Worm Ouroboros from 1922. They talk about the cockatrice. Behold and see that which sprung from the egg of a, I don't even like saying that word, the cockatrice hatched by the deaf adder. The glance of its eye sufficeth to turn to stone any living thing that standeth before it. Were I but for one instant to lose my spells whereby I hold it in subjection, in that moment would end my life, days, and thine. Therefore came forth that offspring of perdition from its hole, strutting erect on its two legs that were the legs of a cockatrice, and a cockatrice head it had, with rosy comb and wattles, but the face of it like no fowl's face of middle earth, but rather a gorgon's out of hell. Black shining feathers grew on its neck, but the body of it was the body of a dragon, with scales that glittered in the rays of the candles. And a scaly crest stood on its back, and its wings were like bat's wings, and its tail like the tail of an aspic with a sting in the end thereof, and from its beak its forked tongue flickered venomously, and the stature of the thing was a little above a cubit. So, notice they mentioned gorgons. Wasn't that like in Stranger Things? The name of the monster, the Gorgon? Correct me if I'm wrong. Here we have a direct reference to it. This is insane. It's crazy the stuff you find when you start researching, digging down into some of this stuff. So I'll put links to all this, of course. I'm back in the chat for a few more minutes, you guys. How about that Illuminati playing card, though? Wow. All right. Look at all the egg jokes. Quit egging me on. Demogorgon. Thanks, Natalie. Infiltration, not invasion. How big is a cubit? I think it's the length of your forearm or something, right? To the end of your pinky, I think is what a cubit is. It's about, I don't know. Gorgons, ancient Greek monsters. Medusa was one. Thanks, Julia. Hollywood knows their history. It's a whole religion, isn't it, that we're picking up on? All this symbolism, it's a religion. It's a religion of the dark one. It's too precise. So, Eric says 18 inches is a cubit. Yeah, that's about what I thought. About the length from your elbow to your pinky. And I'm looking at mine, and it looks like about 18 inches. Royal cubit is 21 inches. Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, Electric State. Seems like a minion creep. When you flip letters around an egg, it looks like 666. Wow, sure does, doesn't it? Just start rotating letters, and that's exactly what it looks like. Flipping and mirroring and rotating. That's a great observation. Ozempic venom, yes. A lot of medications are based on snake venom and reptile venom, amphibian venom. So Joy has a short cubit then. Short arm, short cubit. 18 inches is 666 inches. Yes, Marcy. All right. All right, you guys, I want to pop off here. Thanks for showing up. Great show today. Some of you are going to have to watch this back twice because that was a lot of information. Much love to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care and be safe.